show you a few aerobic profiles, because this is interesting. It's about a little physiology. You know, I was back in the 60s, I was still doing pentathlon running, and my VO2 max is only 63. That's not very good for a good runner. I'm not a good runner, but anyway, that's why I'm a running coach, because I was a terrible runner. I wanted to learn how to do it, so other people would do it. I had a girl one time ran for me in college and never ran 30-mile week in her life and won nationals in cross country. So she was an intense competitor. So you never know what people are going to do. You have to deal with them as individuals. Anyway, I had a 63 max. One of my teammates on pentathlon had a 73 max. And I thought, he got tested in the lab, and I thought that lab screwed up the test. He can't, because we ran at the same times all the time. And he's got a max that's way higher than mine. So I brought him in the lab, and I measured him running at some sub-max speeds, like 230, that's a 7-minute pace. 268 is a 6-minute pace. 290 is about a 5:30 pace, and so on. We ran and measured oxygen consumption at these sub-max speeds, and this is what his economy curve looked like. He was terrible at economy. And my economy was way down here. Running at the same speed, I used about 10 or 15% less energy than he used. So if you extrapolate his economy curve to his max, and extrapolate my economy curve to my max, and drop a vertical line down to the speed, you get what's called VO2 max. I termed that thing, by the way. It's used all over the world now. It means velocity at VO2 max. So what speed of running are you running at when you're running at your max based on your economy? And we had the same VO2 max. Because his terrible economy and his good max matched my better economy and my poor max. This is what counts down here. That's all that counts. Because you can race at that speed right there for about 11 minutes and 3 seconds. The guy that does all my math for me used to run for me. One of the weirdest guys you'd ever want to know. A real nerd. He grew up in Venezuela, but he moved to Paducah, Kentucky, to high school. He came to college to run for me with a letter sweater that had an H on it. I said, wait a minute, didn't you go to Tillman High School? He said, yeah, I did. I said, what's the H? He said, that's for high school. He says, the junior guys have a J on their sweater. Oh my God. We're driving to a meet one time out in Oklahoma, and he looks out in the field and he says, look at all those little cows out there. He said, yeah, Jimmy, those are calves. He said, look just like a little cow. Math, yes. This guy knows math, and he started working on his master's degree toward his PhD degree in physics at Texas A&M. And before he even finished his master's, NASA hired him. And he wrote onboard computer programs for the lunar lander in the Apollo missions. He knew math, and he knew computers. He used to talk to me about emailing me something. I said, what do you mean email? This was 30 years ago. They don't have email. He said, oh yeah, we've been doing that for a few years now. So he did all these calculations. And it's based on hundreds of runners that we've done. And what happens, here's 3 women we tested. Here's one woman here with a 73 max. That's pretty high for a woman. The highest I've ever seen for a female is Joni Benoit. I tested her many times because she was my lab assistant, and her max was 78.6. Now that is a high max. Here's a girl with a 73 max. Here's another one with a 69 max, and here's one with a 60.4 max. And they all ran at the same time for 3,000. Because the one with the high max was poor in economy, the one here was not quite so good, and this one had unbelievably good economy. With a 60.4 max, she was national champion in the 10K. Their best 3,000 meter times were 9:04, 9:07, and 9:08. And they varied by this much in VO2 max. You got to have economy to go with it. And so here of all the hundreds of people we've tested, here is the average economy curve. And if you go work backwards from that, you get what I call VDOT. That's the number where the VDOT came from. It's a fake VO2 max. It's 65.4. Using average economy, you need a 65.4 to run this fast. It's that simple. And Filthy Gilbert figured all that out. Now, this guy was weird. We asked him once what kind of a car he drove. He said, I got a 1968 yellow car. I said, what make is it? He said, I don't know, it's yellow. Who cares, you know? One day he came home and he was really excited because he passed somebody on the highway. He'd never passed anybody. So here's the average economy curve right there. And there's the formula to do it. The VO2, the cost of running at any speed in meters per minute is 0.000104 times the velocity down here squared plus 0.182258 times the velocity minus 4.6. That's simple. That's what Jimmy came up with. So you give me whatever speed you're running at, and I'll tell you how much it costs you. How much it costs the average person. And then here's this other curve that he came with, and that's a real simple formula. This one says the fraction of your VO2 max is a function of how long the race duration is. So if you put the minutes of the race in here where M is, it's 0.80 plus 0.298956 times E to the negative 0.193261 times the number of minutes of the race, plus 0.189438 times E to the negative 0.012778 times the minutes of the race. You can memorize that. What that says is, if you run a race that lasts, when you run a race that lasts 30 minutes, you're running at about 93.7% of your max, according to that formula. You put the minute duration of your race in these two spots, M and M, and however long it is, I don't care how far the race is. If it took you 30 minutes to run 3 miles, and it took somebody else 30 minutes to run 10K, you're both running at 93.7% of your max, because you're racing for 30 minutes. We're not worried about how far the distance is. How long are you stressing yourself? You can run at about 110% of your max for 5 minutes. And you can run at about 112% of your max for 4 minutes. And you can run at 120% of your max for 2 minutes. Then you can run about 3 hours at your max at about 8% of your max for about 3 hours. So that's why this curve flattens out. Obviously, as it gets longer, you only reduce the intensity a little bit. So that's a Filthy Gilbert thing too. It's and that's how we figure VDOTs. So what's the importance of this VO2 max? Well, that's what counts. That's all that counts. This rate, and that's all, but that's all that counts in terms of VO2 max and economy. So we force everybody who has poor economy onto an average economy, and everybody who has great economy onto an average economy, and that way we can work backwards. And I can give you the equivalent VDOT value for any race you want. You can say I ran 4.73 miles in such and such a time, and I'll give you the VDOT. I have it right in my calculator. It'll calculate it in about a second and a half. So it's very, very useful. And if you want to get, so all you have to do is your VDOT equals the cost of the race divided by what fraction of max you were at. Right? If the cost of the race is 58.5 milliliters per kg based on this average economy curve, and the fraction of max, that's based on that other real curve, is 0.9 of your max, then your VDOT equals 65 divided, or 65, which is 58.5 divided by 0.9. So that's how we get all the VDOT numbers to determine what's going on. There's some of those percentages I talked about we won't worry about.